Grace, nice one. Yeah. This is the highest I've ever been recorded. Wait, like, not recording, sorry. Ever. Like, we have like sediment cores and stuff. Ice cores.
So CO2, there's 400 parts per million.
CO2 is reaching 400 parts per million. This is the highest it has ever been in the history of the Earth. That's not bad. So we're not able to.
Three, terrible. Yes.
Well, so I ran out of like time, so I was kind of like left it at that.
It's okay.
I think the world.
Okay.
I talked about some impacts.
That's very messy. Just tell me. Okay, write down whatever I I'm not very great, but I don't think people will go against will be great. I don't think the people will go against will be that great either, and plus we'll be doing a lot of relay, so.
We'll all suck together.
Yeah, well. Yeah.
That's very confident, isn't it? From someone who hasn't seen me debate in months. Perhaps it's because the memory of my last debate has faded from your mind.
I don't think you've ever debated this semester, have you?
Like the very
This
first.
started yesterday.
I mean, this year. Like the school year.
The very first week. Remember the Kim Jong-un debate?
Oh.
That was spectacular.
That was
Yes.
spectacular.
I think I debated other times than that. I had to have.
You debated
I'm not
like
sure.
3 times. And I don't think Marielle was here. Were you here? The epic showdown between Daenerys and me and Lily and Grace. Wait, was that
first point and then right.
No. Lily was the judge. Grace was with.
I was with Grace.
You were with Grace. I was Blade.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, okay. Anyways, I think you should probably like start some time this year. I know you like to
right
solve.
there response there. So like you're tracking the points across.
You know, you guys need to like have a policy of not falling on the floor and crying after every single one of your rounds. Okay,
I'm gonna bring a blanket.
I need you guys to like not do that.
Wait, can we? I'm gonna bring a blanket. Are you gonna bring a blanket?
So I don't know, like I kind of want to bring a blanket, but I just watch mine.
So
Like I watch it pretty often, yeah. But like it's in like
Meg,
this
how many points do you have?
cycle where it smells really nice, and I'm like.
So they're gonna have 2 points of their own.
I first don't want to break it out if I want to like my dinosaurs.
And that's gonna be new in the first next speech. So you write their point there.
Okay, I'm gonna bring a blanket.
I'll bring some.
I'll bring some tissues.
And then blankets.
I'll bring a blanket.
Right. So like.
Oh,
in
I'll
the
bring some
second
of my
half
Canadian
speech,
candy. I've been
they
in
have to
crash
respond
shape for
when
the
they
past
have
day.
I have some topic
One of my
from
friends
neighbor.
sent me a big box stuffed full of different Canadian exclusive candies. We were talking about it. She's like, wait, but you like coffee, you like chocolate, I've had a coffee crisp. And I'm like, what's a coffee crisp? And she's all like, holy moly, I need to send you these. And then she sent me like half the store too.
Okay, like I thought this play suit had pockets, but it doesn't.
Oh, dude, my dress has pockets. It's the best.
My
thing
pants
ever.
have pockets.
Wait, can you fit your hands in them? Like.
My hands are kind of big, you need to remember. Like, compare my hand to my head's pretty big too, so that's not
I'm gonna put on my jacket.
Because I feel swampy.
You feel exposed.
Why are
I'm ready.
Take it off as you speak, it's a metaphor for overworking.
Okay, wait, that's a good idea. I'll zip it up, and then as I speak, like after each contention, I'll like.
Until the end, you're like.
Wait, let me put this on first.
You were at League. This is what you were doing at League. I am your parent judge, who is likely Asian, does not speak English.
Should I speak in Chinese?
No. Do you speak in Chinese to the judge?
Depends on if they're Chinese. Well, I remember this one time. Okay, wait.
Stop stalling! Start falling!
Is everyone ready? Good?
Yeah.
Okay. So before I begin, I'd like to extend a warm blanket of thanks to everyone for making this event possible. Are there any questions before I begin? Okay. Time.
Pearl.
No.
Seriously.
I am. Time
Serious is dead.
starts now. So as the first speaker of the affirmative team, I strongly affirm today's resolution that the U.S. federal government should adopt a cap and trade policy. So I'll be going over some definitions, moving on to our plan, the advantage to our plan, and then our contentions. Anyway, cap and trade. So a cap and trade policy is an environmental policy tool that delivers result of the mandatory cap on emissions. So essentially, what it is a policy that's meant to restrict the amount of carbon emissions in the atmosphere. Okay, and our plan is after USFG timeframe as soon as possible. Plan text or as soon as possible has provisions to develop and become stricter within like the next like 20 years or so. We'll adopt plan text. The USFG as soon as possible will adopt a cap and trade policy in 11 Western states in the United States. Wait, no.
States.
In all the states, every state in the entire nation. Okay, moving on. So I don't know. Anyway, so currently in the status quo, if we don't act now, estimated damages of the U.S. alone are estimated to reach 200 billion annually by 2050, or like economic damages. And then if caps aren't put in place, the average damage from greenhouse gas emissions would be at about $570 billion over the next 4 decades. This is according to WorkingSatPBU. So what we would do with our plan is reduce heat trapping emissions of at least 15%, or of at least 15% below as they were in 2005 by 2020, and yeah, or do more. Okay, moving on to our case. So our first contention is that it's guaranteed to limit pollution. So what the cap in the cap and trade policy does, it's that, or this cap and trade policy is the only effective way that we have to efficiently solve this issue of climate change or of greenhouse gas emissions. So it sets hard limits for companies and like stuff and people and stuff like that, so that they can only emit a certain amount of greenhouse gas emissions. And this is uniquely good because okay, wait, yeah. This is good. Okay. What the heck? I don't know what's going on. Okay. So essentially, the cap and trade policy that we plan to put in would guarantee effectiveness because it's guaranteed to work. Okay. So the impacts of this impacts of not doing anything would mean global warming and which is like everything is bad and like the sea levels are rising and people are dying and like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Extinction. Okay. What? What are you doing?
I vote for you on global warming.
Yes. I don't really understand what's going on. Okay. Global warming is bad. Oh. Okay, global warming bad. Okay. You already know what global warming is bad. I don't know why I have to. Moving on, second contention. Innovation. So, what? Okay. Okay, so with our plan, it's not, even though it's going to be inflicted as soon as possible, it's going to be so that it's like a gradual change rather than there's going to be a more gradual change, which means more flexibility in like companies that need to switch and stuff like that, which is good. This allows planning and long-term sustainable change, which is good. Creativity would be incentivized in this way because this means more companies have to think of different ways to not only like make the same money as they did before, but also fit in the cap and trade, like the cap set by the cap and trade policy that we plan to like put in with our plan. So yeah. Yeah. Also, they get money out of it, right? From like selling the things. So not only are they going to benefit, or not only are the companies going to benefit economically, they're also going to benefit by selling and providing more eco-friendly products that are going to overall like help the environment because we're enforcing this cap and trade policy. Yeah, awesomeness. So the impacts of this, the U.S. economy would go up also, and the planet would be. We'd have more technology because creativity would be incentivized, and as we can see now, like with the Silicon Valley and whatever, Like there's tons of innovation happening, and like creativity is great, and we are capable of doing like lots of amazing cool things. And if we had this cap and trade policy, people would be more incentivized to do this because there's like a strict cap on it. Like there's a strict cap of greenhouse gas emissions, and therefore they need to like comply, otherwise bad things would happen to them. So yeah. Okay, yeah, and also additionally, the planet would be safe because you're reducing greenhouse gas emissions, therefore less global warming, therefore no extinction. Awesomeness. Third contention, soft power. So okay, so if the U.S. Puts in our plan puts in our cap and trade plan, essentially we're going to see an increase in U.S. soft power because as we like in the status quo right now, the U.S. is extremely influential in creating like worldwide decisions. So if we take a clear leadership position on this on the cap and trade policy or on our cap and trade policy, we're going to greatly increase the chances of a global agreement to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So also, this is going to increase like foreign relations and stuff like that, and international cooperation is a good thing because it means like more like communication, more people like are talking to each other, getting the best ideas out of each other, blah blah blah, stuff like that. Great stuff. Also, working towards finding a better solution that's like through all countries. Good stuff. Really great stuff. Yeah. And that's my time. Strongly affirm.
Yeah. Still doing okay. Well, I do. What is the cap and trade policy, Judge?
Judge, you already know this. I don't need to explain it to you.
Alright, what order are you going to do this?
Okay, I'm going to go night case then outcase.
So the new
On
sheet
pages.
first, and then that one.
Okay,
Just clearly signpost where you're going.
okay. So before I begin, thank you to everyone here. So time starts now. As the first speaker of the negation team, I strongly negate today's resolution that the USFD should adopt a cap and trade policy. So I don't think the AF stated a criterion, so we'll just say it's net benefits for greatest amount of good. So, and I just want to point out quickly before I get into net case that AF never stated any consequences of what would happen if companies did not comply with the cap. They said, and I quote, bad things would happen. So this is clearly not something specific. So now I'm going to get into net case. So our first contention would be that of price increases and economic damages. So under this cap and trade, so I don't think my opponents sufficiently explained the trade part of this. So companies, if their emissions are under the cap, they can sell their, so the government's going to issue a certain amount of allowances. If they're under the limit, they can sell their allowances to other companies that, yes?
So I guess from the way you're explaining it, do you understand that that's the way we enforce the cap?
Yes. Okay. So they can then sell these to other companies that might be polluting more. So as companies are having to buy these allowances and try to figure out ways to be polluting less, all this is going to cost money. Money that's going to increase the cost of production. Oil and coal will cost more, and from there, companies have two options. It's either cut down on production, which will lead to America being dependent on other countries for oil, or passing on the cost to the consumers, or laying off workers, which I'm going to get to later. So Heritage Foundation in a study found that a similar cap and trade policy already enacted, the American Clean Energy and Security Act, would hurt the GDP by $9.4 trillion by 2035. It would cost each family an extra $1,241 per year. And we see this because cap and trade, yes?
Can you repeat that stat really quickly?
Okay, Heritage Foundation found that a similar cap and trade policy already enacted, the American Clean Energy and Security Act would hurt the GDP $9.4 trillion by 2035, costing each family $1,241 extra per year. So, because these production costs are rising because the cost of oil, coal, and electricity is going up, what this means is that pretty much every manufactured good ever is going to go up in price. This is everything from our cars to toys to pretty much any manufactured good or anything that requires electricity. So, and our second contention is that of small companies being affected by this the most and job loss. Okay. So pretty much companies are going to be financially incentivized to comply with this cap. However, big companies might be better equipped to pay any potential monetary punishment as a result of not complying with the cap. However, small companies won't be able to do this. So what we see is that big companies will be able to bypass current regulation and continue polluting anyway, while small companies won't be. So what this is going to do is it's going to artificially put the market in favor of big companies, which is going to increase monopolism, which is bad because it goes against the entrepreneurial spirit. Moreover, small businesses, not just in the utilities industry, depend heavily on energy sources such as oil and coal, and if they're to pay fines for their emissions or be punished in a monetary manner, what this is going to lead to is these companies being bankrupt. This is going to lead to job loss. So the companies that are the industries that are going to take a huge cut include manufacture, as the Heritage Foundation found that the act we previously stated led to 400,000 manufacturing jobs lost, and they predicted that agriculture would drop by $50 billion by 2035. So we see clear economic detriments, and I'm going to go to ask case. I'll take your question later if I have time.
Thank you.
So their first contention was that this is guaranteed to limit pollution. However, they've clearly stated no links as to how cap and trade would directly lead to a limit of pollution. They state it limits pollution. No, they say it's guaranteed to limit pollution because it is. So, however, we have shown that large-scale companies, because they can easily pay off any monetary punishment, they can continue polluting anyway. So this is not going to limit pollution. Instead, it's just going to favor the market in favor of big businesses driving out small businesses. So this clearly does not solve. So their second contention was that of innovation. Okay, I'm going to go back to that later. So then the third contention, later I have time. Yeah, I'm refuting. The third contention was that of stock power, where U.S., by implementing this policy, would influence other countries to adopt similar stances on global warming. However, if you take countries such as India and China that are developing, and they find this need to industrialize, even with cap and trade, with America doing something, they're clearly not going to do this. It doesn't go in their best interests right now to do so. So there is no reason why they would do this. They're looking to become more industrial countries, so any position that America takes wouldn't have an impact on this, no matter what we would like to think. So, later I have time? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so their second contention was that of innovation and how creativity is incentivized. However, okay, I can't really know what to say. Yeah, so pretty much their plan doesn't solve it, only leads to economic detriment.
Do you have the phone to decide
Are we still doing okay? Any questions or things that come like
Make ourselves stronger so I can actually know
Yeah.
what's going on.
I will be so clear like a window.
no or clean window?
Only the cleanest. Alright. Is everybody ready? Alright. So I strongly affirm today's resolution that the United States States federal government should adopt a cap and trade policy. I first begin by talking about my opponent's claim that our plan has no consequences. I'm going to talk about their case, then I'm going to finish with ours. So my opponent first started by talking about how our plan didn't have any consequences, we didn't have any guarantees, and we didn't have any enforcement. We weren't specific about that at all. And then she proceeded to explain exactly how we were going to enforce it through the trade arm of this plan. Because here's the deal. They're focusing a lot on the cap, how we're going to set these hard limits on how much companies can pollute. But the important part comes down to the ampersand as well, the trade. Because with the trade, like she explained, companies who pollute less can sell their allowances to companies who pollute more. And that's what happens. Everybody's going to make the limit because you have to buy these allowances in order to make it. I asked her if she understood this, and she's like, yeah, so I hope, Judge, that you understand as well that there really isn't any kind of conflict here. With that, I'm going to move into their first point, that it will increase the cost of production. So they talked about how all of a sudden everything would be so much more expensive because of these new caps.
Do you acknowledge that big companies that might be polluting more would also be, it would be easier for them to buy these allowances than it would be
Thank you.
smaller
I'm going to get into that because that happens to be your second contention. So I'm going to refute everything. All right. So they proceed to talk about how oil and coal and everything else, the prices will skyrocket. But the problem is, what they're ignoring is that these reforms aren't happening overnight. Like, bam, all of a sudden, 15% in one night. These companies have years to make these goals, to make these reductions. My partner has talked a bit about how these changes are in place to get this long-term sustainable change we need. These aren't overnight reforms, and my opponents have critically missed the point. So, because of this, you can disregard that. So they're going to talk about next about the Heritage Foundation and how this one particular plan resulted in all this terrible stuff. Unfortunately for them, that's not really our plan. You can't look at our plan and say, well, this other plan, which is completely different from your plan, failed or has potential to fail, so I'm sorry, we have to dismiss this out of hand. The problem is that our goals are different, and because of that, companies won't take the same measures. In addition, the Heritage Foundation didn't take into account innovations that will be made. And I'm going to get into that when I get to our second contention on how these innovations mean that none of these detriments will actually appear. Then, in their second contention, as they just asked, they talk about small businesses and how these small businesses can't afford it because they have less money. But with less money, I want to point out that these small businesses, it's all a matter of scale. These small businesses have less money, but they also emit less. These big corporations who have a lot of money, they're also emitting the most emissions. Because of this, we're not seeing these problems arise. You're not going to see a mom and pop shop down the street be a big polluter on the line with, say, McDonald's. That's not the way it works. It's a matter of scale. More pollution, more money. But on my metaphorical graph, these small businesses are right here by my elbow, aka irrelevant. So with that, they also briefly touched on something about agriculture and manufacturing would be hurt as well. But again, as I'm going to touch on innovation, as well as I'm not really sure how agriculture is going to be in this at all because, oh my god, farming does not really emit anything. And now I'm going to move on to our own case. So the first one is about our guarantee. They talk about how we don't have any links. And they talk about how it doesn't have any teeth or any consequences, the way they talked about before we even began talking about the case. But again, they've demonstrated they understand, and I've re-explained it for you one more time. This is a guarantee that we have a hard limit and a way for all companies, big or small, to make that limit. So because of this, we can guarantee it. So I'm going to quickly talk about some reasons why global warming is really bad. My partner said that you know why it's bad. Here's some reasons that you may not know. The first one is that global warming forms a positive feedback loop. So as carbon emissions rise, they're currently at 400 parts per million, the highest they have ever been in the history of the Earth, which is kind of scary. The temperature also rises. As the temperature also rises, this increases the rate of decomposition, which increases the rate of carbon dioxide, which increases temperatures, and so on and so forth. That's one of the main reasons why we need to make sure this happens now. Because as it increases in the future, not only is that economic detriment, it's going to be a lot harder to stop. Because it's like a cheese wheel rolling down a hill. You can't stop it. With that, I'm also going to talk about some of the effects. So sea ice has already decreased 14% every decade since the 70s. We're seeing more melting ice, and with thermal expansion, these sea levels are rising. We're also seeing huge amounts of habitat destruction, danger to food production. I mean, we'd rather have more expensive food or no food at all. Judge, I don't think that's a choice you want to have to make. So with all these changing temperatures and climates, all these bad things are happening. So that's why it's really important that happens right now. Before, if your CEO killed someone, they'd metaphorically pay the price. Now, if your company, if your CEO kills the environment, they're literally going to pay the price. So it's because of this that this guarantee matters so much. So I'm going to move into our second contention, that of creativity, and to talk about how our plan doesn't solve. Our plan totally does solve, because here's how. Like I said, if you know that by 2020 you need to meet some goal, you're going to start planning about it. You're going to say, how am I going to start saving energy? Okay, well, if I have these new company reforms about turning off the lights automatically, if I come up with this new way to create energy, all this good stuff starts happening because people are trying to think about ways to meet this goal, right? It's a brainstorming session, except every company in the United States is in on it. So it's because of that we're going to see this huge explosion of innovation, which is going to avoid a lot of the pitfalls that my opponents talk about. Companies can turn carbon dioxide into carbon dollar oxide because the way they store extra emissions. Companies have every incentive, both cash and environment. So, soft power, extend innovation, go for case. What? All right. So with that, I'm going to finally go into talk about soft power.
Okay, thank you.
So, and then talk about how it doesn't go in developing countries' best interests. I have two responses. First of all, the main reason why we're talking about it is because we don't want to be a hypocrite. The United States has a huge amount of pollution, but we're also one of the main people who's like, hey guys, stop polluting. It's about cleaning the snow off your own roof before telling your neighbor about it, to misquote Confucius. And, which China does care about. And also, China and India are also realizing that you can't have this kind of indefinite industrial expansion. Xi Jinping has talked about this past year about the new normal. So we're seeing all these different reforms which are in line with this constant expansion. My opponent is just factually wrong. And with that, I strongly affirm today's resolution. Really working.
Those analogies. Oh my god.
You literally could have spent one, like 10 seconds on it and then moved on, but you just kept going with those puns.
You know, sometimes I think we need to focus on things that matter, like global warming and my puns. Hey guys, are you going to talk?
Hey guys, are you gonna talk? Yeah.
Like to us, not just to like each other.
Yeah, electricity. So that increases costs for everyone regardless of whether they can make it.
Okay, I'm sorry, this will be really bad because that one's being like really long. So it's kind of like these practices. We don't need that.
Well, I was like, oh yeah, same. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Shall we make a resolution for the US that we should adopt a cap and trade policy? So for a brief roadmap, I'll start by reviewing, going over our plan case and moving on to our case. So for reputations for the team's case, their first contention was how their plan was guaranteed to limit pollution. How they talked about how every single company can make this goal. However, if you think about it, smaller businesses really cannot do this because they don't have enough money to make this change to produce they don't have enough money to make green energy investments, and they'll see like significant financial blows. Their second contention is of innovation, how every company will change and how it will increase creativity amongst these companies in the US. But basically with their plan, they're just with the allowances and the trade, it's just putting taking away pollution from a certain area and then putting it to another area, so it doesn't actually decrease the amount. And they're also gambling creativity over economy, which is not good. I'll take a question.
Thank you.
their contention is of soft power and how by implementing their plan, they'll be setting a precedent for other countries to follow. However, if you think about it logically, this just won't happen because other countries will keep on emitting and yeah. Okay. Now moving on to the negation case. Our first contention was how if we implement the plan, then there'll be a significant price increase.
Going back to what you said about the whole small businesses won't be able to handle it thing. So are you saying that they can't like do energy conserving things?
They don't have.
Like turning off lights and like limiting the amount of water they use? Is that what you're saying? Because that's what we're getting.
The whole cost of electricity goes up.
Yeah, they can, but the cost of electricity still goes up by a lot. Okay, okay, so for first contention. Oh yeah, so the price will increase for everybody and there's more economic damage if we implement this plan. Because it makes us more dependent on like coal and stuff and oil and all that stuff. And the price for any the price of production increases also by a lot. And power plants also emit a lot. Our second contention is a job loss. So if we implement the plan, then a lot of the smaller companies will suffer because they don't have, as I said earlier, they don't have enough money to make these changes, and also a lot of these small companies are already struggling to pay off their electricity bill. And yeah, also we will be bankrupting these coal plants, and so at each coal plant there's about 100,000 workers times 10,000 coal plants in the U.S., and that's a lot of money lost.
As final speaker of NEG, I strongly negate today's resolution that the USFD should adapt cap and trade. So in this speech, I'm going to be going over voter issues or key reasons why the negationists clearly won today's debate. So our first issue is that of AF solvency. AF does not really solve when it comes to limiting pollution, because as my partner has stated, they are merely moving pollution from one location to another, as pollution is just being transferred from one place to another through trading. So what this could result in is a few areas being heavily concentrated with pollution and becoming dangerously toxic, which has a more lethal impact than a bit of just pollution distributed over a wide area. So this doesn't actively limit pollution. So our second voter issue is that of the economy. So they claim that none of our bad impacts about the economy will come to pass because of innovation. What they're doing is they're gambling our economy on the chance that someone's going to come up with an idea. What they're doing is that they're putting all these lives, these 400,000 jobs for manufacturing, this $50 billion from agriculture, this $9.4 trillion of our GDP on the line on the off chance that someone's going to come up with some brilliant idea that will save us all. The probability of this is low, whereas we have shown that there are going to be definite economic detriments. So, continuing from this is our point of small companies. So, just to clear things up, so energy producing power plants, they emit a ton of emissions as they have to burn coal and such to provide electricity. So what this means is that since they have to buy more allowances, what this is going to mean, it increases the cost of electricity. Consumers have to pay more because of this, either that or workers are laid off, which, as my partner stated, is a large amount in America, working in coal mines. So consumers have to pay more. So what this is going to do is increases the cost of manufacturing for pretty much every product ever. Small businesses have to pay a phenomenally greater amount when it comes to electricity, whether they emit or not. Regardless of cost-cutting measures they could implement, this is clearly going to be too much for them to handle, as industries such as manufacturing and agriculture are heavily dependent upon electricity. So this is going to be a huge hit to our economy, and this does not justify, and the limited amount of good regards to pollution does not justify the damage that we're doing to our own economy. So while the AF contentions of a guarantee of limiting pollution and innovation in soft power have been refuted, the net contentions of price increases on small companies failing and job losses stand, as the affirmative has not clearly refuted this. Instead, they say, oh, there are years to implement this policy. Someone's going to come up with an idea. This is a dangerous gamble which could put $9.4 trillion and countless jobs on the line. This is clearly not a risk that we should take given the magnitude of negation impacts compared to the probability that someone's going to come up with an idea. So pretty much, AFCASE doesn't stand, whereas NEG has definite impacts of economy. So I strongly urge a negation vote on points of economy and not really solving for anything. So I strongly urge a NEG vote.
I think it's a very compelling picture.
Of course.
Should I just start the speech with page 2?
Because David's picture is when she drew Hamilton. Was George Washington? It was Hamilton. Okay, go.
So you want them to spin off some little tiny.
Grace, are you ready?
Of course.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Judge ready? Judge is ready. Great. Time starts now. So as the final speaker of the affirmative team, I don't know the resolution, will strongly affirm the resolution that the U.S. federal government should appoint a cap-and-trade policy. So throughout this debate, the negation team has constantly been ignoring the fact that there is a cap part to this cap-and-trade policy, in which the cap is actually going to limit the amount of greenhouse gas emissions and like carbon emissions, etc. And I believe I explained this in my first speech, and they didn't ask any questions about it, so they probably agreed to it. However, they repetitively said that we're not going to succeed and we have absolutely no solvency with our plan. That's completely not true. If we're limiting the amount of greenhouse gas emissions across America, clearly we're doing something right. You're gonna see that with our plan we're gonna reduce heat trapping emissions of 15% below 2005 by 2020. I already stated this in my first speech. They didn't say anything about it, so clearly they agreed that it was the cap was going to be effective. Therefore, we do have solvency. Not only do we have solvency, we're also helping the economy. Okay, so we're solving for the economy, and we're not gambling. The creativity of other companies over economy. Literally, we're not depending the future of our nation over a few businesses that are going to create new technologies. No, that's not what the affirmative team's plan is going to do. What the affirmative team's plan is going to do is put a cap on a restriction on the amount of carbon emissions that can come from like companies and like stuff like that. So this doesn't mean that we need to wait for new technology to be made. There's like when I asked a question in the second negation speech, I asked if I asked if they were aware that there were the other things companies big and small can do to limit their limit the amount of to limit their energy consumption, like turning off lights, saving water, etc., etc. And they said yes. So clearly there is some huge disconnect that between the affirmative team and the negation team, because they say we have no solvency. They say like all of these bad things about our plan, when in reality there's literally nothing bad about it. They haven't properly been able to say like any reason as to why it's inherently bad. There are ways companies can save energy. There are ways we are actually creating more creativity while saving energy. We're saving the planet, okay, etc., etc. Overall, having a greater net benefit. Overall, having a net benefit over like not only the United States but the world. If you reference our third contention on soft power, they stated like stuff about how it's not really going to be effective because different countries like India and China have different desires. However, my partner already refuted this when she stated, and this was completely like this wasn't addressed at all after, by the way, so you can extend that. But anyway, my partner already refuted this when she stated that countries are already in the status quo, moving towards a better future for our globe. This is our planet we're talking about. We're not just talking about whose economy is going to be better over the course of 20, 30 years. But the point is, we're trying to save the environment with this cap and trade policy. Other countries are going to see that America has taken a leadership position on it, and therefore they're going to switch as well. Okay, like my partner already stated that China's president, or whatever, like he stated something that it's time for change, okay? And therefore other countries are already trying to move towards change because this is our planet we're talking about, okay? If you look at the long-term impacts of what the affirmative team's plan is going to solve, we're going to solve for global warming, which is a global catastrophe. If we don't do anything, there's going to be not only economic damage, but we're not going to have a planet at all. So it doesn't matter if we're not solving for the economy. If you didn't buy anything I stated at all, buy the fact that we're trying to save the environment, and we are going to save the environment with less greenhouse gas emissions. I have 10 seconds left. Yeah, we're going to save the planet, and the negation team hasn't said anything particularly offensive to their side. Therefore, you have no reason to prefer the negation team over the affirmative team because their entire case was essentially defense over offense. And with that, I strongly affirm today's resolution.
Alright. Do you have any questions about anything that happened or what they did?
Parts of the points.
No? Okay. We're gonna do feedback and then we'll talk to some about what they did. So you get an idea what they did.
Unique parts of the flow.
Who should go first?
Uniqueness. Danny. Okay.
Feedback.
Uniqueness. Brilliant.
Danny.
Do you remember what the warrants are?
Yeah.
Do you know how your case didn't have any?
Well, theirs didn't have any
links
either, kind of.
I'm pretty sure ours had.
Okay, please. I was gonna
And the global warming impact!
What?
Oh, global warming's bad. Now I'm gonna move on. You should already know that.
Okay, fine. But Grace did a better job.
Great. So
But you need to explain it to her.
I will.
Like backing
I'll
that
try to
up
find,
with
like,
evidence
things
and
that
logic.
actually make sense.
And
No,
you know,
I
like,
get
they
it,
went
I
straight
get
from, like,
it.
oh,
I got it
we have
after,
to
like,
to we're solving global
Oh,
warming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
That's where
that's
you're
So
missing.
another thing,
Like you're not
you also
proving
needed a
why.
couple more explanations at the beginning of what cap and trade does. I think it would have been a lot easier to explain how you solve and what your
Do you
contentions
guys even
do
understand
if that had
cap
come at
and
the
trade?
beginning.
Anything.
Oh, and the plans!